Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Extra Innings Podcast. I know it's been a week since my last episode. Had some stuff to take care of, but we're back. Hopefully, back to the daily uploads for the podcast. And today, we're going to be continuing the series of going through all 30 teams, going over their 2020 offseason and grading it and reviewing whether they improved their team or not. Today, we're going to do the Cleveland Indians. And in 2019, the Indians went 93-69 with a 49-32 home record, a 44-37 road record. They were second in the AL Central, and they missed the wild card by 3 games behind the Tampa Bay Rays and the Oakland Athletics. I thought that the Indians performed where they needed to be, or slightly overperformed. I knew they weren't going to be a World Series team. I just didn't think they had the power to compete with the Astros and the Yankees, even the Rays. And their division is not the easiest division in baseball. It gets easier towards the end of the division, but they have the Twins, who played amazing in 2019. They have the up and coming White Sox, and then you have the Royals, who are always hit or miss. They've been pretty poor the last couple of years, but remember, they did win a World Series, I think, just around 5 years ago. So you got to be careful about them. And then you have, obviously, the Detroit Tigers, who are a AAA team with no disrespect to Miguel Cabrera, because he is really the only serviceable MLB player on that team, and maybe Jacoby Jones. So in 2020, the offseason, the Indians did not do much. They traded a big piece, but I don't think it's going to hurt them as much as another piece, in my opinion. So we're going to go with a couple trades that they did before the big couple talks that I want to do. First, they acquired Sandy León from the Boston Red Sox for Adonis Bautista. Adonis Bautista, prospect player, is not going to make much impact now. You have Sandy León, who was a Red Sox favorite. I know in 2019, he had one awful year. He hit with a 192 batting average, a 251 on base, a 297 slugging, and a 548 OPS. The guy barely got on base 3 out of 10 times if he's lucky. He hit 5 home runs with 19 RBIs. He's not really a productive catcher. He was just a fan favorite in Boston. He's a negative 0.6 win player last year. Didn't really do much. 5 home runs, 19 RBIs. Doesn't get on base. He's not the greatest defensive catcher. Doesn't get on base, but what he is good for is a backup catcher, because the Indians do have Roberto Perez behind the plate 90% of their games, even probably 95% of their games. León is a serviceable enough backup catcher. He doesn't prove it by the numbers, but he does have some pop in that bat. He has a career of 332 slugging, which again isn't great, but he does have some pop in that bat. So he can go yard from time to time. But what it is a good serviceable catcher. It's not the greatest backup catcher in the league. It's nothing like that. But when you have a all-star caliber catcher in front of him, I don't think it's going to mean much, but it is a trade they pulled off, so I wanted to talk about it. Next, they re-signed Francisco Lindor to a 1-year contract to avoid arbitration. They're going to have to pay this guy either next year or a year after that. And boy, is he going to ask for a lot of money. Francisco Lindor, there were rumors about him being traded. I know the Cardinals were a spot for him. But I think he's staying put in Cleveland. I don't know how you can let go of a franchise shortstop like this. The guy in 2019 hit a 280 with a 284 batting average, a 335 on base, a 518 slugging, and 854 OPS with 32 home runs, 74 RBIs. He had 170 hits. I don't know if you trade this guy. The only thing I think of is you can't pay him. But if you can't pay him, you got to find a way to pay him. Career-wise, he's a 288 hitter. He has already 130 home runs. He's been an all-star for the past 4 years. He's been in the MVP voting for the past 4 years. He's a 2-time Gold Glover, a 2-time Silver Slugger. He was second Rookie of the Year in 2015. If you don't pay him, I don't get it. The guy makes plays defensively. The guy is an amazing offensive hitter. He hits from both sides of the plate, and he's probably a better left-handed hitter, but trust me, the guy rakes from the right side too. It's not like he's a liability from the right side. Pitchers are afraid to pitch to him. He's a fun player. He has the smile that he's known for. He is the Cleveland Indians. When I think of the Cleveland Indians, the first player that comes to my mind is Francisco Lindor. And it will always be Francisco Lindor for now, until he gets traded, or if he ever gets traded, or he's going to finish his career in Cleveland. I think they need to build a team around him, and that's what they've been doing. They acquired pieces like Franmil Reyes last year, needed that pop in the bat. Yasiel Puig need a pop in the bat. These are guys that you can surround Francisco Lindor with, and they will win. And that was evident last year, winning 93 games. They just missed the playoffs, but that was because the Twins had an unbelievable year, power-wise, pitching-wise. You couldn't really expect it from the Twins, but now you're going to come to expect it from the Twins. So the Indians are going to have to, play better, maybe down the stretch a little bit. But I like Lindor, and I don't know how you can't like Lindor. The guy's he's likable. Everybody likes him. I don't think there's one guy in the league or fan-wise who does. Even if you hate the Cleveland Indians, you like Francisco Lindor. He's that friendly of a guy. I've seen him play in person. He's electric on defense, on offense. A ball's hit in the hole, chances are he's going to get there. A ball's hit up the middle, there's a chance he gets there too, and it's a very high chance, A ball that 90% of shortstops are just not going to get to because their field of range is not that wide. He'll at least stop the ball, He is that productive on the defensive end, and he is a scary, scary hitter on the offensive end. I don't know, he saved 11 runs in 2019. That is amazing. He saved 13 in 2018, 7 in 2017. He has 44 defensive runs saved in 5 seasons. I love the defensive runs saved. I know it's flawed. I know it's not the most perfect statistic or analytic to measure fielding. I know UZR is slightly better, but I think defensive run is just easier to understand. He saved 44 runs from happening in 5 years, and that is fantastic. So Yasiel Puig needs to get locked up. I like the spot he's in Cleveland. I do think he can prosper elsewhere as well, but I like him in Cleveland. I think he fits in Cleveland. I think Cleveland needs him because, Cleveland sports has not gotten the luckiest. They haven't been so lucky, with LeBron leaving and coming back and leaving again. Kyrie leaving. They need this. With the Browns not being amazing, the Cavaliers not being amazing. They need this. They need the Indians to, pick up the slack, and I believe they will. Next, I'm not going to bring up his stats. You guys know who he is, Mike Clevenger. I love this guy. He's a number one in my book. He really is. I signed him to a 1-year deal to avoid arbitration. He is a number one in my book. The guy throws just he's really unreal when you think of it, because if you look at him on the mound, he doesn't look scary. He doesn't look like he's going to blow you away. But guess what? That's exactly what he does. He blows you away. In 2019, I will bring up his stats. I lied. He went 13-4 with a 2.71 ERA, with 169 strikeouts, with a 1.05 WHIP in 126 innings. If he can get those innings up a little bit, remember he's only in his 4th year. He's entering his age 29 season. If he can get the innings up to above 200 like he did in 2018, he eclipsed 200 innings in 2019. This guy is an all-star. I don't care that he hasn't made it yet. I don't care that, he flies under the radar a little bit. This guy is an all-star. Now he has the chance to be the number one in this rotation, and he's going to take full advantage. Trust me. He's just that good. You watch his stuff, it's electric. It's just, the ball comes out of his hand. It looks just like a ball should look. It looks like, he has the stature. He's 6'4", 215. He's a little leaned out, but he's 6'4". He stands tall on that mound. He gives you that. Again, I'd like to bring this up because Adam Wainwright is someone I've watched over and over and over again throughout my life. I've seen him in person multiple times. I've watched him pitch on TV. Just the way he interacts with his teammates and the way he stands on that mound. Clevenger gives off that vibe. And I love Mike Clevenger. He might be my favorite player or second favorite player on the Cleveland Indians. I like a lot of guys on the Cleveland Indians because I think they're a team. I like underdogs, and I like guys that not everyone talks about, underrated players in the MLB. Mike Clevenger is one of the most underrated pitchers in the MLB, but especially starting pitchers. He deserves the credit. Him and Trevor Bauer, when they were on the same team, I loved watching them. When they went to go prank that high school team and they played a scrim with that high school team one-on-one. They're just fun, they enjoy the game of baseball, and that's what I like to see. I understand it's a business for them and it's their job, but the players who understand that they are the luckiest people in the world getting to play a children's game at the age of 28, 29, even into their mid to late 30s, those are the guys that I look up to. Those are the guys that understand that they were truly blessed to be in the position they're in. No matter, I understand that they worked, and they understand that they worked and killed themselves, but they still understand that we are getting paid top dollar to play a children's sport that many people stop playing at the age of 12, 14, 16, 18, So I love stories like Mike Clevenger, so huge fan. You got to lock him up as well. Next, they signed Domingo Santana as a free agent. Domingo Santana is a good outfielder. He could play first base. In 2019, he hit 253 with a 329 on base, a 441 slugging, a 770 OPS with 21 home runs and 69 RBIs. He played really well in Seattle. And I thought he was going to stay in Seattle, but Seattle's going through a rebuild, and I don't know if Domingo Santana fits. I know he is only 27, but I think they just wanted to make room for their younger guys. But Domingo Santana really has that pop, When he was in Milwaukee, he had years. He had a 30 home run year. He's a serviceable outfielder. He makes the plays. I think he will probably play either right field or DH, in my opinion, for the Indians. I think it's between him and Franmil at right field, and I think Franmil gets the starting spot in right field, and I think Domingo goes to the DH spot. Or what I don't think they're going to do, but they could possibly do, and I'll bring it up later, is they start Jake Bauers at first, and you put Carlos Santana in the DH spot. But I don't see that happening right away, at least. I think when the season does start up, hopefully I have to make another podcast about that, talking about the new updates in the season and how, the league and Manfred says he does see 2020 happening, but the players are not really feeling it. Players don't want him to rush. And I'll make it my opinion on that again. I made my first ever podcast was about, my opinions on whether 2020 should start. I'll make it again with the new information that we have about COVID-19 and the progressions that, the United States is making in the fight against it. But I think Domingo Santana will be their starting DH for the beginning of the season, at least. Maybe he gets pushed to the bench. Probably not. I think he stays as DH, and I think it's a very solid, serviceable DH who has a lot of pop in his bat, can get on base, and he can probably hit around the 5 or 6 hole, and that's a beautiful 5-6 hole hitter. Next, we're going to talk about the big trade involving Corey Kluber at the end. I don't know. I wouldn't call it a big trade, but I'm just going to call it the trade for Corey Kluber that we're going to talk about at the end, and then I'm going to talk about this one before that, and I think this is the biggest loss that the Indians have to endure, in 2020. Losing Yasiel Puig. And I put losing in quotes because he's not lost just yet. He's still a free agent. He hasn't been signed yet, and I really think they should sign him back. I really do. Put him in left field, you put him in right field, you swap him with Franmil, whatever you want to do. He had a really, really under-the-radar 2019. He hit 267 with a 327 on base, a 458 slugging, a 785 OPS with 24 home runs and 84 RBIs. I really thought he found his home in Cleveland. I did. I really think he did. I just think he has to reinvent himself because when he was on the Dodgers, he had that All-Star year in 2014. He had those monster years with just his hitting 319 in his first years in the big leagues, and that's unheard of, right? But I really do wish that Yasiel Puig finds his way somehow back on to the Cleveland Indians. I don't see it happening because I just think their outfield has too much depth. But I think this is the biggest loss for them. That power, that production, that arm he did play right field a lot, but he also did play left field for a little bit. But I think it's hard to just make up that type of production. I don't know why, for me, I think this is their biggest loss. Of course, a lot of people are going to say, how can you say that? It's Corey Kluber. Corey Kluber, the all-star pitcher, the ace in the rotation. And yes, I do believe that their rotation is their biggest weakness right now. And I still think that even with Mike Clevenger, even with Shane Bieber, I still think their rotation is the weakest link in this whole team. Because they only have 3 really serviceable starting pitchers. But I don't know how I don't think Domingo Santana is the guy to replace Yasiel Puig's production. I don't. I think you should have kept him. I don't think he would have cost a lot of money. So, in my personal opinion, Yasiel Puig should have been re-signed. They let him go. That's their personal choice. And it's tough. He's still a free agent. I think you have to bring him back. There was just a report that the Marlins offered him a contract and he said no. And the reason, and apparently other teams have offered him as well. He hasn't said which teams those are. He said no because he doesn't think there will be a 2020 season, and he doesn't want to sign to a contract and then be held to it. He doesn't want to sign a multiple-year deal and then get held to that. So I understand where he's coming from. He doesn't need the money right now. He can wait until the offseason of 2021 and find the right team for him and sign. But I do think if we do play in 2020, that's going to be some hard production to make up from the Cleveland Indians. And the last thing I want to talk about for the Cleveland Indians, obviously the one everyone knows about, is the Corey Kluber trade to Texas. They picked up Delino DeShields and Emmanuel Clase, or Clase, however you want to say it. I think it's Clase, but I'm not 100% sure. They pick up Delino DeShields. It probably will be either their starting outfielder or a serviceable bench bat. In 2019, he had 249 with a 325 on base, a 347 slugging, a 672 OPS with 4 home runs and 32 RBIs in 118 games. Again, Delino DeShields is not that power hitter. He just never was. He's not really that RBI production hitter. He's that leadoff guy. You put him in the 1-2 hole, he gets on base. He's a 246 career hitter. He's not the greatest. He's serviceable. He's a good outfielder defensively. He does his job. He does make some bonehead plays in center field. Don't get me wrong. He definitely does. Do I think he's going to start over a guy like Oscar Mercado? Probably not. So, I'm looking at their depth chart now that they have an outfield, and they have a very deep outfield. I don't see Delino starting. I see him as a bench. I see Fran Miller in right, Oscar Mercado in center, and either Jordan Luplow or Greg Allen in left. The only thing I can see them doing is putting Mercado in left, Delino DeShields in center field, and Franmil Reyes in right. Actually, that's what I think will probably happen. Even though Mercado is a very natural center fielder, maybe you move Delino to left field. But I see them trying to do that trio in the outfield of Delino DeShields, Oscar Mercado, and Franmil Reyes. So will he start for them? My opinion, yes. Only time will tell, though. And then they picked up Emmanuel Clase as well. His first year in the bigs in 2019, he was 2-3 with a 2.31 ERA in 23 in the third innings pitched. He had 21 strikeouts with a 1.114 whip. This guy has the tools to be a really, really solid pitcher in the MLB. He really does. Is he going to start for them? Probably not. He's probably going to go to the bullpen. He has that strikeout power. Obviously, 21 strikeouts in 23 and a third innings. He low ERA. I don't know what more you could ask out of him. And I see why. The Texans, the Rangers let him go. Excuse me. Can he start? I'm sure he could, but I know he's a reliever, like a listed reliever for Texas, and he did come out of the bullpen for Texas, but I'm sure if they need him to start, he can start. And they probably will need him to start, because I'm going to go through their rotation soon in a minute, and I think they're going to need him to start. But to go over the trade, they get those two guys to give up Corey Kluber, who just didn't really play in 2019. In 7 games, he pitched to a 2-3 record with a 5.8 ERA, with a negative .4 WHIP. He only pitched 35 innings. I think Cleveland, was his home for so long. He's entering his age 34 season. He was an All-Star in 2016 through 2018. He won the Cy Young twice, one in 2017 and one in 2014. The guy is an animal. Don't get me wrong. The guy is as productive as you can get. And I think it will hurt him. I think it will hurt, not him. I think Texas might be the spot for him. I think it will hurt the Indians overall. But I know he's entering his age 34 season. He's going to start slowly declining just because that's the end of his prime. He's coming out of his prime. And it's not like you picked up amazing players for him, but you picked up like a guy in Class A who has the ability, maybe not to turn into, a Corey Kluber, but can turn into a really, really solid either back end of that rotation, a long setup man or even a closer if you need one. Right now you don't because you have Brad Hand. But I think it really bolsters that already amazing bullpen. And that bullpen is, along with the lineup, the bullpen is what's going to carry this team in 2020 and in the future beyond that. Their bullpen is really, really solid. So I'm going to talk about, we're going to go through the rotation. We're going to go through the whole depth chart real quick. So their rotation is Mike Clevenger, Shane Bieber, Carlos Carrasco. I love Cookie. The guy is just so strong. The guy, everything about him, love him. Adam Plutko and Jeffrey Rodriguez. The reason I say they only have 3 really real starting pitchers is because I don't know how Plutko is going to perform in a full season in 2020 or the full season that we're going to get. And I don't really know a lot about Jeff Rodriguez. I've actually never seen him pitch before, so can't really speak on it. Bullpen, you have the closer in Brad Hand. The guy's an absolute beast. From the left side, that's one of the top closers in baseball, and I believe that wholeheartedly. I think it's between, him, Josh Hader is up there, but he's definitely one of the most elite closers in baseball. You have Nick Wittgren, you have Adam Simber, you have the lefty in Perez, then you have Clase. You got guys like James Hoyt. You signed Dominic Leone to a minor league contract, so he'll probably make the 40-man. And again, this bullpen is just so overwhelmingly good. Guys like Wittgren and Simberg, underrated guys. Wittgren throws really hard. Simberg, guys from the right side, guys from the left side, they can mix it up on you, and they have a bunch of options to go to that can all are all efficient and can all do the main thing that they're out there to do and get outs. Catcher, you have Roberto Perez, probably an all-star in my opinion if he continues just playing the way he does, doesn't fall off dramatically. He'll probably be an all-star. Sandy Leon is the backup. Your first base, you have Carlos Santana and Jake Bauers. Here I was talking about Jake Bauers is their prospect guy. I think you can, if you see that Bauers just needs those reps, you can put Bauers at first base. He is a lefty, so that's what you want there at first. You put Santana at the DH, and you let both of them get the reps because they both hit for power. They both, taking Santana out of that lineup hurts, but if you put him in that DH spot, it's not going to hurt nearly as bad. Second base, you have Cesar Hernandez and Christian Arroyo. Cesar Hernandez is definitely going to get the start there. Arroyo is a good backup. Really good serviceable bench player, but Cesar Hernandez is going to start at second base. Third base, you have a potential all-star in Jose Ramirez. Guy had a down 2019, but he kind of picked it up towards the end of 2019, and I do believe he's going to pick it up whenever the season starts up. I'm just going to say 2020, probably 2021 though. And, potential all-star, past all-star, and I believe he's going to be a future all-star. Then you have a definite all-star in Francisco Lindor at shortstop. There is no one backing this man up. He is a one-man show out there, and he is going to get the job done. Left field, MLB.com has Jordan Luplow as the starting left fielder, but I do believe it's probably going to be either Oscar Mercado or Delano DeShields. In center field, the same thing. I think it's going to be Oscar Mercado or Delano DeShields. And in right field, I have Franmil Reyes and probably Jordan Luplow or Domingo Santana as the backup. Designated hitter, you have Domingo Santana, Franmil Reyes, or Jake Bauers, or Carlos Santana. Like I said, I think it's going to be towards the start of the year, it's going to be Domingo Santana or Jake Bauers, and towards the middle to end of the season, I think you're going to see Santana probably slide into the DH and Bauers move into the starting first baseman role. So, overall, what do I think about this team? I think they really did not get much worse. I think that, guys like Bauers, can really make a difference. Their pickups that they got from the Texas Rangers are not going to make a huge difference. Domingo Santana, he's going to be impactful, but not as impactful as I think Puig could have been. So I'm going to give them a slight... You know what? I take that back because I know how good this team can be, but I do really think that their rotation is going to hurt them. If their rotation pitches to the way I think that their rotation can, then I'll keep them around a 94-95 win team. But my prediction for a 2020 season based on a 162 game scale, I'm going to go... It hurts me to do this because I really do like this team. I'm going to give them a 91-71 record, a 2-game decrease. I just think the loss of some bats in that lineup, the loss of obviously an all-star pitcher in Kluber. Yeah, he didn't do much in 2019, but you're still losing an all-star pitcher who's he's getting up there in age, but he's not old. He's not washed up. He's entering his 34th season. But I do think their bullpen will really carry them. So overall, what do I grade them? I don't think they had a bad offseason. I just think I don't think they had a really productive offseason. I'll give them a B-. It wasn't terrible. They did what they needed to do to get by. They made some moves so their fan base doesn't get really annoyed. I think trading Kluber was probably for the salary, so you have enough to sign Francisco Lindor when you need to do that to an extension. But I'll give them a B-. I'm satisfied with what they did. I still think they're a top team in the AL, and I don't expect that. The problem with the American League is there's so many good teams. You have the Yankees, you have the Rays, you have the Red Sox, who I think will be good. I'm not sure. I believe that last year was a fluke for the Red Sox. You have teams like the Athletics. You have teams like the Twins, the Twins are not a joke. The Twins, that was not a fluke. I can guarantee you that. That team is here to stay, and they deserve to be back at the top. I think the American League is slightly more difficult than the American League. You have teams like the Astros, who I don't think are going to drop off that much. Yes, I know they were cheating, and I know that they used cameras and buttons on under their jersey, so they get a little thing. I don't know what it's called so they know what's coming instead of hitting the trash can. Buzzers, that's the word, buzzers. But I think the Angels are going to be really, really... I don't think they're there just yet, but I think the addition of Rendon, you have Mike Trout, who is, again, I'll say it over and over, in my opinion, the best baseball player to ever step foot on a baseball field. And I think, people disagree with that. They bring up old guys, but I think the game was different back then. I think the game is harder now. I think the game evolved now, and Mike Trout is just one of the best. You still have a guy like Albert Pujols who can be productive, maybe limited at bats, but he can be productive. So, like I said, 91-71 record is my prediction in 2020 if we were playing 162 games, and I give him a B-. So, thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to this podcast. I know it's been a while. It's been probably a week when this is going to get posted, but I promise we're going to get back to the daily grind. I'm bringing in guests. I recorded already 2 podcasts with guests. I'm going to bring in more. We're going to make this thing big, so I appreciate all you guys, all the new subscribers, everyone supporting the videos, liking, commenting, giving me all feedback. Once again, feedback is welcome, positive and negative. It really means the world to me. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to listen to me, and I'll see you on the next episode.